Hi, I'm Ian Whittaker, host of the JCDecaux Digital Changemakers podcast. The Digital Changemakers podcast showcases industry research and insights to inspire senior marketeers to push the boundaries on their marketing strategies and become change agents in their organization. Today, I'm joined by Emma Rowson, marketing executive at JCDecaux UK, to talk about the British Journal of Photography's annual out-of-home exhibition of Portrait of Britain. Portrait of Britain is the UK's biggest annual photography exhibition, and since 2016, the exhibition has partnered with JCDecaux to showcase 100 winning images in a month-long digital screen display across the UK. The large-scale exhibition uses the immense reach of out-of-home to bring art to public screens nationwide, creating a joyful and poignant celebration of British identity. Welcome, Emma. Emma, great to have you on. Thanks very much for coming along. Superb. We're going to talk about Portrait of Britain in a minute, of what it means, JCDecaux's links with it. But why don't you tell us a bit about yourself first, how you actually came to work in the out-of-home industry, and of what you feel it has for people like yourself, who essentially, you're interested in marketing, so you're just starting off in your career and so forth. What attracted you to the proposition?
Yeah. Well, hi, Ian. Thank you very much for having me on the podcast today. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm relatively new to marketing itself and very new to the out-of-home industry. I guess what's so fantastic about it is that there are a multitude of different things going on within the out-of-home industry at the moment. One of those being a real push for creativity and creative expression and people pushing the boundaries of that right now. That's for a variety of reasons, including the increasing digital capabilities. So with the move towards digital out of home and brands being more interested in digital out of home, with that comes some exciting possibilities and creative possibilities, such as, 3D effects, anamorphic, and real-time interaction with screens, which completely transforms the way that out of home is used and is used by brands and is used by the public. As well as that, in a recent report from Outsmart, it found that nearly 50% of the out-of-home revenues are invested back into communities, whether that's through public services such as on-street defibrillators, bus shelters themselves, or community initiatives. And I'm lucky enough at JCDecaux to work with the Community Channel and the REACH programme as well. And they're both initiatives that work to make out-of-home accessible to more people, including non-profit organisations, charities. And the giving back side of out-of-home is just really, really wonderful. And that's one of the things that excited me about it and drew me into it. Although it can be often, there's a perception that it's all advertising and the focus is all advertising. Obviously, advertising is important, but what advertising can do for communities and how it can serve the public in terms of funding all of these wonderful services is really fantastic, and it's a fantastic thing to be a part of. That is quite an interesting point, what you mentioned about there, the 50% that goes back into the local communities. Because if you think about it, there's probably, and without going too much down this route, but there's not really any other medium that does that in terms of the money that flows back. Well, I think out-of-home does it in a very special way. And even at the very beginning of JCDecaux, when our founder came up with this idea, it was to provide bus shelters that were fully funded by the advertising that would be attached to them. And that philosophy behind it continues today in the out-of-home industry, particularly at JCDecaux, but in the whole out-of-home industry. Yeah, there's a real focus on giving back, on serving the public with really high quality, not just screens, but high quality bus shelters, high quality, as I say, life-saving street furniture, and a variety of other things. I'm not expert enough to comment necessarily on the industry, the advertising industry as a whole, but I do know that out-of-home is very special in that respect. Okay, well, no, that's superb. And that actually leads on quite nicely when talking about the community and giving back and so forth, leads on quite nicely to Portrait of Britain. Yes. So that, and JCDecaux's involvement in it. Now, maybe that of people out there don't know a huge amount about Portrait of Britain, and so can you just explain what it is,
how it came about, and also as well, just JCDecaux's involvement in it and why it was so important.
Of course. So Portrait of Britain is an annual photography competition and exhibition that's run by the British Journal of Photography. It's a fantastic annual event. It's the UK's largest public exhibition, photography exhibition, And essentially what happens is there are loads and loads of entries and they are all judged by esteemed judges, a variety of judges. And the panel decides on a 200 images that are shortlisted for a book, which is a fantastic book. And JCDecaux have sponsored the book this year as well. And then from those 200, 100 winning images are selected for JCDecaux screens. And there is a month-long display of these beautiful, beautiful images that really capture the spirit of the nation and the diverse, changing nature of the nation. It's a real celebration of what it means to be British, what it means to have a British sense of identity. And this diversity is reflected in the subjects, but also in the styles of photography too. So you don't have to be a professional photographer to enter. People can take photos on their iPhones. They can take photos with high-tech equipment. And the images all differ in some way, but they're all brilliant in their own respect. And yeah, tying back into what I was saying about giving back, it's a brilliant, brilliant exhibition to be involved in. And JCDecaux are very proud to have been involved since 2016 with this wonderful exhibition because it brings art to the public. It brings art to the public in their everyday lives. It brings the culture of Britain, as I say, the spirit of the nation to the people. And through Out of Home, Portrait of Britain is woven into the fabric of everyday life through the power of the public screen. It's there, it's present, whether they are going down the high street to meet a friend for a coffee, or they're heading to the shops, to a shopping mall, or they're waiting for the train. There are these beautiful, beautiful images of all kinds of different people. And hopefully people can see an aspect of themselves within them or feel a sense of pride about the country that they are living in, working in, moving around in. And yeah, it's a fantastic, fantastic exhibition. And this year the photos are as good as always. And I've had the pleasure of looking through them and enjoying them already on screens. It's fantastic.
Actually, that then leads very nicely on to the next question then, because I'm sure you've got your favourites.
Yes.
I've got a couple of favourites within there. What? Let's say top 3 in terms of the pictures, and why also as well.
Very, very difficult to choose top 3 from all of the fantastic images. Probably widen it out to more like 5 because there are a few that I'd love to talk about as well. Okay. The first being the front cover of the book, which is a wonderful image of this very glamorous woman standing behind a fish counter. And I think the juxtaposition of her fabulous pink hair, her big eye makeup, her glamour with this very mundane activity of, serving fish behind the fish counter. Yeah. It's just this brilliant mix of different aspects, and the way that the photo is taken, the angle that it's taken from, obviously it's focused in on her, but the setting, it almost, as I say, it's a juxtaposition. Yeah. It feels like it shouldn't work, but it does, and it's absolutely fantastic. So that one's an absolutely brilliant one. And another fantastic image to pick out is taken by Naomi St. Just of Jessica Inaba. Jessica Inaba is Britain's first female Black blind barrister, and she talks about breaking through this triple glazed ceiling. The things that she's doing for women, for blind women, for Black women are absolutely incredible. The barriers that she's breaking down and the precedent that she's setting for people that want to go into that kind of similar role and a professional role in the future is fantastic. And it's a beautiful, beautiful image. It's taken in the style of a traditional portrait, she's breaking down so many barriers and she's affecting the world in such a way. I think it's just a really, really powerful, powerful image. Dressed in her full robes, it's fantastic. And then in terms of some other favourites, I know you and I were talking before. There's a brilliant image of a woman in her local village with 3 dogs in a shopping trolley, and she's pushing them along, and it's called Maximum Capacity. It's just. There's humour in it, but also the expression on her face, it's just normality to her. And she's a fantastic representation of the brilliant people, the slightly quirky, the different people that go about their lives in different ways. They might be inhabiting the same space as another person, but they'll be doing it in such a way that, you know, shows that there is diversity in those areas. And she's just fantastic. There's another woman who is framed by a fantastic, almost looks like perspex or neon. Maybe that's from the lighting. Booth. It's called the Waltzer Ticket Booth. And she's a really glamorous lady called Bonnie. The photographer said that they told her she looked fabulous, to which her response was, it's showbiz. As she just looks so glamorous, but also so at peace with who she is. And she, you know, there's a real sense of you know who she is. And that's what's really great, once again, about this portrait of Britain. It's finding the extraordinary even within the ordinary and within the everyday lives. There was a quote from the CEO of British Journal of Photography, and he said that Portrait of Britain it captures the mundane, it captures the everyday, it captures the everyday lives of the people of Britain. And I think that mention of mundanity, there is some of them are extraordinary, some of them are ordinary people living their ordinary lives, but they're all equally as beautiful and they're all equally as captivating. And that's what's so fantastic about it.
Well, as you say, I mean, anything with dogs is always going to get my seal of approval. So, from that standpoint, I'm totally in agreement with you on that. I think the two others that would highlight, and certainly contrasting, one was it was Vernon Vanderbilt, who'd come over from Jamaica. And there were really two things that sort of resonated really like the picture. I guess the first one was it actually resonated a lot with my own father's story. So actually, just like Vernon, my father was a boxer when he was younger. Just like Vernon, he'd actually come over, sort of immigrated to the UK from Ireland. Just like Vernon, there had been difficulties in the society at the time. And obviously 70s as well, and what was going on politically. Sort of, it was quite difficult sort of in terms of the Irish community there. So there was an element there of sort of felt resonance with just many of the things that my dad had seen as well. But I guess also as well, that also fed on to the second point that I liked, and it's a similar sort of attitude that, again, see my own father, which is that despite all the issues that Vernon had, it was a great smile, a great laughter that he had. And you could tell that this was somebody who never let life get him down. And as we were saying, he'd struggled in terms of the compensation, in terms of the Windrush sort of generation and trying to find that and so forth. And that's almost as well that spirit of being able to actually, even though whatever life throws at you, that you're able still at the end of the day to laugh. And to actually realise sort of that there are, whatever difficulties we think we may face, there's still a lot of things that are very positive about life just to be seen. And again, even in very much the mundane sort of things. And then the contrast of that was with Mark.
Yes.
Yeah, who had lost his son in an accident and talking about... It was such a powerful portrait because the grief that was etched on the poor man's face, sort of as he was explaining just in terms of the what it meant, the loss, but also as well he had a very, very powerful point, which was often it is true. Men, when it comes to emotional sort of issues, don't necessarily like to express them outwardly, but it's important that actually does happen. Particularly when you have something like that. And it takes a special form of bravery to actually sort of express that.
But I think it also it's about the relationship between the person being photographed and the photographer themselves. And that's another thing that really does shine through in that image and in lots of the images. They've clearly connected with Mark in such a way. There's a teardrop just resting on the top of his cheek that's about to fall, but it's before it falls. It's just about to. It's on the cusp of that grief kind of being released, I guess. And talking about male emotion, I think he makes a really astute point. It's not necessarily just about being a man. It's about grief being something that no one can really expect until it comes your way, and you don't know how to deal with it necessarily. But everybody can feel supported and can draw support and find support from somewhere. It's a black and white image. It is absolutely fantastic. And as you say, Mark just looks very peaceful, but also in touch with his own emotions. And it is, as a contrast to that wonderful picture of Vernon with his head rolling back, it shows that, there's diversity within the photographs this year, not just the people within them, but the stories that they have. And the stories are equally as important, I think, listening to you talk about it and the connection that you were able to make with Vernon and the aspects that you were able to connect with. It's the stories that add to the images, and it's so fantastic. So you can always access the stories through the British Journal of Photography website. So all of the stories behind all of the photos are accessible there. They're also included in the book, but as a quicker way of reaching them, maybe. So interacting with the photos in public settings is one thing, but you can also add that additional layer by going and reading about the people in the photo, why the photo was taken, and it often alters the meanings. Out of Home reaches about 90% of the UK, and it's that mass reach that means that these photos are being witnessed and enjoyed and are captivating people in public spaces, people in cities. And it's that reach that really just hits home how you can interact with these photos, even if you feel like there may be a disconnect between yourself and art, yourself and some of the British culture. I think what these photos really show is that there are ways of connecting with them. You just might not have been exposed to them before. But with this very, very public exhibition, you can't miss them. And it's really, really fantastic.
Yeah, in a way, Out of Home is there. Everyone walks past the screen and so forth. But it's almost becomes that it's one of those things that maybe we're so used to it, maybe we don't think about it. But it is a very powerful medium.
Yes, perhaps. I think, what Portrait of Britain really shows is that you can't miss it. And the quality of the screens, the quality of the images, you can see very, very fine details. You can see the colour of people's hair, all the many, many colours of someone's hair. You can see their the teeth that make up their smile. You can see the crinkles in their faces that represent their histories. You can see all of these things in the quality of our screens. And for that reason, you can't miss them. You don't forget that they're there. They're quite arresting, and they are very, very captivating. And I think that's what brands can take away from this, and marketers listening. Out of Home is a brilliant place to tell stories and to captivate and to capture the attention of the public, whether they are on the high street, whether they're in a shopping mall, whether they're at the train station. They are going about their day-to-day lives, but you can capture their attention with beautiful imagery, with arresting imagery, with by pushing against maybe what people would expect to see there. And I think that's what it really, really shows. Particularly as we're going into, we're at the beginning of an Olympic year as well. This is it's a time for capturing the spirit of the nation. Sport, throughout history, sport has brought people together, and it can continue to bring people together, particularly in such an important year. And I think brands can really take something away from Portrait of Britain and learn from the Portrait of Britain exhibition how important it is to reach the hearts and to tap into the hearts of the nation through these powerful campaigns and exhibitions. There's a really, really great image as well of a man called Walid Salah, and it's called Paralympic Dreams. He is a refugee, and he very unfortunately lost his leg in an unprovoked gun attack. So his dream is to reach the Paralympics, and it's a very powerful image of him standing, facing the camera, kind of slightly side on, but in a power pose, what I would call a power pose. And it's another thing, to tie back into something you were saying, it's about continuing and moving forward despite what's happened in your past, and being able to show that it hasn't stopped you, and it won't stop you. And it's a beautiful, beautiful image. And as I say, this year will be a year to celebrate superhuman achievements and super, super extraordinary sporting achievements. But Portrait of Britain gives people a time to pause and actually celebrate the everyday, celebrate the ordinary, and find beauty with what surrounds them on a day-to-day basis. But for brands and for marketers, as I say, it's a storytelling medium. It's there, it's loud, it's proud, and it's mass reach. You can touch on so many different people in so many different ways, and to have that ability is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I think that's a great note to actually end on. So Emma, thanks very much for coming along. Thanks very much for taking time.
Thanks, Ian. Thank you very much.
No problem at all. Thank you, Emma, for coming in to speak with me today and give us a taste of the exhibition this year. It's brilliant to hear about the return of Portrait of Britain to screens across the UK, and I'd encourage everyone to get out and see it. If there's anything you'd like to ask us or hear more about, you can visit the JCDecaux Digital Changemakers Hub online. We hope you enjoyed listening, and wherever you get your podcasts, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.